you can't do it. Welcome world, hello world. This is Monday, February 22nd, 2016. It's a beautiful day outside, though it's really windy. So it's probably going to be bad air quality because Dave, what is the wind speed that lifts dust off the ground?
20.
20?
I think so.
Okay, so maybe 20 miles an hour, you can start getting sandstorms.
Yeah.
Do you know, Constance, you might remember from speaking about memory, about at what point is there too much wind to fly planes because there's too much dust? You know,
I don't remember that.
what's the slowest speed? Okay, so maybe it's 20, but here we are. And Saturday was the Nevada caucus. I went. It's very disorganized, not well run. They always have the excuse of, well, it's volunteer people. One of my complaints was there's these tremendous lines. They send you to your precinct. So where I went, there were 3 precincts at Bob Miller. They send you to your precinct, which is based on your address.
Right.
They have Hillary volunteers or Hillary staff a lot, and a few Bernie staff, and they get a sense of the room. So, for example, what is supposed to happen, the first thing when they say, okay, we can officially start, is somebody's supposed to read a letter from Bernie Sanders and somebody's supposed to read a letter from Hillary. And then you caucus. You talk about it. Here, because there were so many people that showed up and the lines were so long and it took so long, that they said, well, we're just not going to do that. We're just going to now move to the voting. Because I believe, they saw Hillary is in the lead here. We don't need, let's just vote. We'll throw out there, we're sorry it's running so late. We're just going to go right to the vote. So everybody who's for Hillary, first they count everybody in the room. And then they say, okay, everybody for Hillary go to this side, and everybody for Bernie go to that side. But before that, when you walk in the door, they're asking Hillary, Bernie, Hillary, okay, well, the Hillary people are over on that side. And they get an idea already before it even starts, who's in the lead. So if you're in the lead, what's the first law of power? Jesus, what's the first law of power? What's that book, 48 Laws of Power?
I got that.
Okay, not in that book. Those are not really the laws of power. The first law of power is you don't give up power. So when people walk in the room, to the caucus room, they're finding out Hillary, Bernie. If you're in the lead, your side is in the lead, you don't want to do anything that could lose the lead. You don't want to have a discussion. You don't want to have a caucus. What you want to do is say, okay, and it wasn't even vote. If you're a Hillary person, move to this side of the room. If you're a Bernie person, move to that side of the room. And then they counted people. They didn't call it a vote. They called it a count. Mm-hmm. And then finally, somebody said, after the voting was already done, somebody said, well, we've got some people insisting we read the letters. Mm-hmm. And you had people saying, boo, no, we want to get out of here. Oh, and so a guy said, well, some people brought their kids to observe this as how the system works. We should respect that. And they read them, but it was too late. It was already done. Bernie's letter was very good. Hillary said, I'm here for Phyllis. Phyllis is this. I'm here for Jesus. Jesus is this. I'm here for Dave. She's just throwing out people's names. And if you didn't love her, you'd be saying, she's talking about this disadvantaged person and that disadvantaged person, this disadvantaged person, but she's not really getting into high level stuff. It's just, you have a problem, I'm going to take care of your problem. Bernie's thing was very good. And the Bernie thing is, and the reality is, on the trend that we're going, the direction this country is going, it used to be like this. This is, everything fits into a bell curve. So it used to be rich, poor. Some people were really, really, really rich. Some people were really, really rich. Some people were rich. And some people, all the way down to some people are really, really, really poor. Some people are, more people are really, really poor. And, you know, it used to look like that. But most people are here, which is called the what?
Middle class.
Middle class. Most people
Very good.
were middle class. What's happened is, what's starting to happen is this is disappearing. So it's now starting to look like you have some people here starting to look like that. A lot of people are really, really poor, and a lot of people are really, really rich. But this is shrinking. Now, if I could, if I knew what the numbers were that made up this volume inside the green, let's say that equaled 100, then I have to have the space here equal that. But if there's more, if I colored in the red, it would take up more space than the green. But what's happening is this is disappearing. The middle class is disappearing. And one day it could look like some people are really, really, really rich. And there are people here. And then it could end up looking like that in the future. Now, what happens if it looks like that?
More like the Middle Ages. Where you have a king, he takes care of, has all his serfs doing all the work, and he gets all the money, and
Okay, so let's say it looks like the blue. So here's the average person. And let's say this is 40,000 a year. No, that's not right. But this would be number of people. This is people, this is money. So, you know, people making 10 million plus a year, and people making $0 negative money, like me. People making negative money.
negative money.
That when you have that, now you really have two groups of people. People who have money and people who don't. There's no more middle class. These people aren't middle class anymore. These people over here are now wealthy. These people are now poor. Because this here, this might be who's making, let's say this number here is $40,000 a year. And this number is 10 million. So the reason Bernie is good is Bernie gets this. He gets, if we don't have a middle class, we're not going to have anything. Does that scare the rich people? No. You know why? Why wouldn't it scare a rich person? Jesus, why wouldn't this scare a rich person? To say if there's no middle class, the country's going to collapse.
Does the rich get richer? Probably?
Well, when somebody says, yeah, but you're not going to have a country. You're not going to have a country. First, they're going to say, not in my lifetime. That might be my grandkids. But even for them, my grandparents immigrated here. They came from somewhere else. if this country gets too bad, there's going to be some place in the world where my grandkids can go. As long as I have money, I don't need to worry about it, because if you have money, there are solutions. So that's the big problem with Hillary being in with the people who have money. They don't care about solving this problem. They have the money. As long as you have money, you don't have problems. You have different problems. But you don't have money problems if you have money. And so, good. Thanks. Hello, Dennis.
Good morning, Ed. How are you?
Good. Good to see you. Good to see everybody in California, A.
Nice to see you too. If, just ahead of time, if just start giving us a lot of feedback, I'll just go ahead and chat and I'll turn it off. If it gives us a lot, I'll just mute it on this end.
Okay.
Start giving us a lot of feedback, and I'll just use the chat.
Can you always hear me clearly?
Yeah. So today, like I said, we got all that feedback. I don't know if another student had a computer on or was.
There it goes.
But I'll just go ahead and use the chat just in case. So we're getting a lot of feedback now.
Yeah. So you've got two microphones.
Anybody else?
Maybe the other camera. How many cameras are on, Dennis?
Just the one that I'm aware of.
You only have one camera turned on? See, when I speak, I can hear an echo.
Can he hear the echo on his end?
Dennis, can you hear the echo on your end?
Yes.
Okay.
After today, I'll try another camera as well. But we've changed the cameras before.
Is there a headset plugged in that maybe the microphone on a headset is picking it up? Now they froze. No, they're unfrozen. Okay, well, let's solve this problem after.
Okay, good deal. Just give me
But I'm gonna open the chat box.
Okay, mine is open.
Good. All right, so mute yourself. Mute you. Okay, so hello everybody. We started having an economics discussion because we were waiting for California. We're glad you're there, and I started talking about Saturday was the Nevada caucus, which is sort of goofy how it works, but so it was the Nevada caucus. Hillary won, Bernie lost. I think Wednesday the Republican caucus?
Republican?
Tomorrow. Tuesday's the Republican caucus.
5 o'clock.
They do it a little bit differently. And the Republican caucus, one of the goofy things they do is they let you register that morning. So there's a loophole in the law that if you're a Republican,
Republicans they had to be.
No, I'm saying the
registered
Democrats.
last week. Yeah, Democrats.
the Democrats have this goofy thing that you could register, you could be a Republican, go down and register that morning as a Democrat and participate in the caucus. So that was kind of goofy to do that, but it also meant it took a lot longer to get everybody in and started, and a lot of people showed up. The biggest issue that was not really addressed, well, it was tried to be addressed by Bernie Sanders people, reading his letter. So the way it works in the caucus is you come into a room, you're just supposed to be people, you're not supposed to be divided, you're not supposed to know who's what, you're not supposed to be doing stuff in the beginning. You go into a room, they read a letter from Bernie Sanders, they read a letter from Hillary, everybody has 15 minutes to caucus, to talk about it, and then you vote. Okay, well, here's how it worked here. When you entered the room, they would ask you, are you Hillary or Bernie? And they would seat you on a side, so they always knew who had the most votes. And Hillary had a lot of people staffing the caucus. Okay, you could say good for her, she's smart, whatever. She had a lot of people staffing the caucus. So when everything was set up and it took a lot longer, they said, look, we're going to try to make this thing get done faster so you're out of here on time. We're not going to read the letters. We're just going to switch over to whichever side. If you're Hillary or Bernie, we're going to switch to that side of the room. But at that point, they already knew that Hillary won. So the first rule of power is you never give up power. And if you're going to win, you don't want to give them an opportunity to sway any votes. So Bernie ended up getting 4 delegates. She ended up getting 9 delegates from our precinct. But then when they read the letters, what became very clear is one person, one of the 2 sets of letters really got the point. And the point is this, right here on the board. So all you have to do is see that and you know everything. Actually, I have to tell you what it means. So our country, the United States, grew strong because there were some really poor people and there were some really rich people. And there was a lot of people in the middle. There was a middle class. There was a thing where you could go to work, have a job, and buy a house, retire, and live on Social Security. Send your kids to college. The state would pay, in California, used to pay 75% of college tuition, and everything was good. Strong, healthy middle class. Now what's happened is there's getting to be more people who are really, really rich and more people who are really, really poor. So instead of fewer people who are really rich and fewer people who are really poor, there's getting to be a lot more people who are really, really poor and a lot more people who are really, really rich. So if you take a curve and you add more people to both ends, it doesn't get higher because it's the same number of people, basically. Or the thing works out the same. It's still a bell curve. It doesn't get higher. What happens is the middle starts shrinking down. So today, we're more like this. We're more like, we have a lot of poor people, not a big middle class, and then all of a sudden there's getting to be a lot more people. There's getting to be a lot more people who have Phyllis, you're going to have to take this. This is John. There's getting, so now one day, if this trend continues, that the middle class starts shrinking, one day it's going to look like this. That here's the amount of money you need to be able to make it, and you're going to have a lot more people on that side and not many people on this side, and now you just have a society of rich and poor. And in the history of the world, it has never worked in any place, and they've tried it many times over the last 10,000 years, including Egypt, including Sumeria, Babylon, the Israelites, where there was poor and there was rich, and it is not sustainable. The rich can't support the poor. Eventually the poor decide, hey, you know what? Same thing happened in Russia. One day there's so many poor people, they say we have nothing to lose. We're going to change the system. We're going to have revolution. So Bernie Sanders is very clear, we have to save the middle class. And he's very clear not just in what he says, but in what he does. His whole history of politics has been, I am on the side of the middle class. Hillary cannot make that same claim. So the question boils down to, who do you believe, who can you trust more to save the middle class? And, you know, one of the facts about the Clintons is they've made over $100 million in speaking appearances to large groups of people who want the wealthy to get wealthier. Not to,
Can you invite him one more time?
yeah, not
He's inviting
to
right now.
wealthy people saying we need to give back to the poor. She doesn't have any, there's nothing in her, let's see. Okay, he has been invited. So we're trying to get our Casa Grande campus online, so we'll have 3 campuses once again on these calls. But anyway, when you're thinking about stuff, issues of, is the person Jewish or not Jewish? Is the person a female or not a female? That has nothing to do about saving the middle class. Those are not real decisions. Gay rights, abortion, that has nothing to do. This is an economic problem. If there is no middle class, and it's not something we have to deal with, because we're going to be gone. These people that have the money, they don't need to worry about the future, because they'll say, my grandparents immigrated here. If this country goes to hell, we'll just move. I don't need to worry about my grandkids in this country. If this country isn't good, it's going to be like my grandparents left Italy at the turn of the 20th century because it was poverty, or people in Ireland leaving Ireland because of poverty. There will always be a place in the world that people who have money can go. They don't need to care about saving the middle class. That's the question. And when you are here, or let's say you're in Italy at the turn of the 20th century and you can't afford to leave, life is very bad. And that's sort of the direction we could be heading. We certainly aren't heading towards prosperity. More people are getting richer and more people are getting poorer all the time, and what gets squeezed out, especially with new technology, is the middle class. No society can survive without a middle class. It has never happened in the history of the world. The rich people are not going to give their stuff to the poor, and the poor people are not going to tolerate forever being poor and seeing people across the street that have everything and their kids are starving. That isn't going to happen. Now, it could happen in our lifetime that we will put up with it, that it'll continue to get more like that, but it is not going to be sustainable. And we can't just kick the can down the field. Bernie Sanders has done a very good job of creating awareness, and the argument of, the other Hillary argument is, you have to work with Wall Street. You're not going to get anything done if you don't work with Wall Street. That's her answer to why she's working with Wall Street. Hey, Bernie, don't be naive. We have to work with these people. That's simply not true. In the French Revolution, they didn't say to the revolutionaries, or in our American Revolution, the Minutemen were not told, don't even bother because the bankers in London control everything. They didn't care about that. They cared about food, clothing, and shelter, and not being overly taxed, being able to make a living. Anyway, end of that story. Now, we're going to talk about Google Apps. And this week, we're going to talk about Gmail. Gmail is the first real Google app. Google was started to do what, Phyllis?
Send out emails.
No, what was Google started as?
Oh, internet browser.
No,
Oh, I don't know.
search.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, okay. It's sort of a browser, but it was really different from Yahoo, AOL. It was search, find whatever you want. They started with that, but then the question got to be, the business model was, for a free service, is you need what?
An email address.
You need eyeballs.
Oh.
You need people to be watching, to be coming to your site. And so what Hotmail had demonstrated was, if you give people free email, a good free email service, millions of people will sign up. And in the first few years, an Indian guy got like 10 million people to subscribe to Hotmail. Microsoft bought Hotmail from the guy for about $300 million. And at that time, and now this goes to entrepreneur school, at that time, a lot of people said, this guy's crazy. Why would you pay $300 million for a free service? And AOL was strong at that time. A lot of people were paying $15 a month, $19 a month for an AOL account. Hotmail came along and said free email. Microsoft bought it. Why would Microsoft pay $300 million for something that was a free service? Eyeballs. Because they wanted people going to the site. And Microsoft said, well, and they calculated, how much would we have to spend to get 10 million subscribers? And they calculated the amount of money they would have to spend to get 10 million subscribers would cost them X, some amount of money. The amount of time it would also take, there'd be a certain amount of time. And they said, now, where is Hotmail going to be in that period of time? You know, if it takes us 2 years to get 10 million subscribers, where will Hotmail be in 10 years if we don't buy them? They might have 20 million subscribers. Maybe somebody, one of our competitors, will come along and buy Hotmail. So they decided it was worth it to buy Hotmail, and I don't know how many, 50 million, 100 million, I don't know how many subscribers Hotmail got up to eventually. So Google followed that example and said, okay, well, email has won. In the beginning, there might be some people here that are over 40 that say, I remember when I got my first email account and I didn't have anybody to send an email to. Or I only knew a couple people. Or the first time I heard about it, my thought was, well, do I really need an email account? Nobody I know has an email account. Okay. So Google came along, that battle was won, and we got to have email, and they came out with a product that was superior because search was built in. In the old days, you would have your email account and you'd have to regularly create different boxes, folders to keep your separate files in. Gmail came along and said, no, you don't have to do that because you can search for any email that you've ever received.
That's right.
In the beginning, if you got an email from particular people, you got a lot of them, you'd set up a folder and you'd move all of those. You might create a rule. You move all of those emails to a separate folder. Google said, this is going to be crazy in the future because if you don't remember what folder you put that email in, you might not ever find it, or you might spend a long time looking through every folder to find it. So we're going to take our search algorithm and we're going to do it so you don't even have to create folders. You just search, and you'll search through every email you have. And they got good, and so that got them eyeballs, that got people to be on Google more. And then they decided, worked once, let's come out with some other apps. And they did, and they have a bunch. They have maybe 70 different apps. We focus on 8. So for the new students, what I want you to do is get your composition book, go to a page, a blank page. On the right-hand side, don't ever write on the left-hand side of your paper to take notes. The left page in your composition book is when you review your notes. That's where you write comments after you review your notes. So on the right side of a page, and that page should be entitled Google Apps, draw a big X, and we're going to come up with the list of all of the Google apps that we study. The 8 apps. He's trying to set up the call. See, he's not accepting our call. He's set up his own call. Okay, and we just can't join his call because of California. Okay, so what's one app, Jesus?
Gmail.
Gmail. Dave, what's another app?
Voice.
Voice. Okay. Constance, do you know one?
Calendar?
Calendar, good.
Good.
Jesus.
Maps?
Maps. Now it becomes very important for the new people to be able to memorize these. And the best way to memorize them is you review it, you look at them every day, and create some way to remember them. Because when you get in an interview, the number one reason they should hire you is because you know something the other people you're competing with for the job don't know, and that is the cloud. Part of the reason we can't get the Casa Grande people on this call is because they don't know how to use the cloud. So,
He said he's not getting it
then that means he's not logged on. As,
Are you logged on?
see, you know, okay, now, once we have those four, now draw
Are you logged on?
a line like that.
Yes.
Okay? Now, Jesus, what's another app?
YouTube?
YouTube. Okay, Dave,
Maps?
we got
Already got
maps.
maps?
Yeah,
Calendar? No, it's already up there.
Chrome?
Chrome. And we put a box around Chrome. Okay, Constance, you know another one?
Drive.
Drive, good.
Have we talked about?
And there's one more,
Google Plus?
Google Plus, good. These 8 apps are the ones we focus on here. If you know these 8 apps, you can learn the other apps very easily. But these are the ones that you should use all the time. You should be using, okay, Chrome. We put a box around Chrome because Chrome isn't really an app, it's a program. And for our purposes, the difference between an app and a program is we say a program is something that's stored on your computer. An app is stored on the cloud. Chrome has to be on your computer because it's the thing that gets you to the internet. It gets you to the cloud. So we put a box around that just so that when somebody comes along and says, why don't you just hold it in case he calls back. If somebody, you say Chrome, somebody says Chrome's not an app, it's Chrome isn't an app. That's why we put a box around it so that when somebody says Chrome isn't an app, we can say, we know that, that's why we put a box around it. But we study it as one of the things that we need to learn. Along those lines, the reason you should use Chrome instead of Firefox, Internet Explorer, Safari, any of these things is because it's designed, made by Google to work with all of their apps. It is safe and secure. If somebody says to me, Firefox is more safe and secure, Mozilla is safer and more secure than Google, I say, wait a second. Google is the company with the highest value in the world. If you take the number of shares they have and you multiply it by price of share, Google is worth almost $800 billion. Mozilla is not worth, probably it's not even worth $1 billion. Might not even be worth $100 million. There's no way that the people at Mozilla could have a more secure browser than Google. Now here's how they use statistics to fool you. They say, well, that's not true because last year Google got hacked 1 million times. Mozilla didn't get hacked. Well, half of the world's population is using Google. Okay? 52 people are using Mozilla. Nobody who has anything secure really is going to put a lot of, so you don't have businesses running on real businesses running on Firefox. You have little guys that have businesses running on Firefox, but real people don't because it's not designed to work well with other apps. Google is. So Google spends billions of dollars to make sure it's safe and secure. So you should just switch, bite the bullet, switch from Internet Explorer to Google Chrome because it has a lot of benefits. And when we talk about Chrome, you'll see what that is. But this week we're doing Gmail. Gmail is something you should be using every day. And this week we're going to talk about using it as a professional. You get Google out of the box, in quote, or Gmail out of the box, in quote, when you get your Gmail address. It works perfectly fine. You don't have to do anything. You can start sending and receiving emails. But as everybody who's gone through this program knows or finds out, Once you open up the hood and look under there and see what's in there, what's there? What's there?
A lot of
stuff.
A lot of stuff.
A lot of stuff that makes it so that Google, that Gmail, can and is used by businesses. UNLV, every student at UNLV gets a UNLV account, but it's really a Gmail account. Go to Gmail, log on with your UNLV account. You have all of the apps, all of the stuff is there. Google is making a big point of going into schools. All of my kids here in Clark County are given an account, and now the schools are using Google Education for their assignments, homework. Teachers are doing it. We do it here at Larson. And so Google is going to keep getting stronger and better and more secure. So you want to be the guy, the person who knows Google Apps, which is going to continue to grow, not the person who knows
Yahoo.
what other apps.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you could say Yahoo, and Yahoo's shrinking now.
Shrinking.
They're laying people off. Their big thing is they have these channels for entertainment, movie, sports. You know, it's information more. Okay. Calendar you should be using every day. We're going to talk about calendar, and the thing about the Google Calendar is you can have multiple calendars, you can share calendars. Drive started as what? What did Drive start as, Phyllis? Drive, hard drive.
Oh, okay.
Started as a huge file cabinet in the sky somewhere, in the cloud, where you could take any file, audio, video, text, data, PDF, any file, and you could save it somewhere out there. Didn't matter where it was. You didn't even need to know where it was. Once they were able to save your documents, they said, you know what, we should come up with other apps that enable people to use their documents. So one of the first ones was called Docs, which competes with Word.
Word.
Okay? So in the old days, you'd have a Word document and you would store it on your drive in the cloud. Then when you went to a computer that had Microsoft Word on it, you would download the file, work on it, save it back to your drive.
But you had to say it.
Yeah. Google decided, well, you know what? Let's come out with a thing that works like Word, looks like Word, acts like Word, but instead of having to have people go to a computer that had Word, they can go to any computer, get onto the internet, go to their drive, and start working on their files automatically. And one of the benefits of when your files are on the cloud, you can be anywhere and work on them at the same time as other people, which is called collaboration. So in real time, you can do things with Google Docs that you could not do with Word, because Word was stored on your PC. So if I wanted to do a contract with Jesus, I create a document, I send him the document, he looks at the document, he makes changes, he sends it back to me, we go back and forth, we're playing ping pong. With Google Drive, with Google Docs, I can be on the phone with them, we're looking at the document together in real time. We're going through it one time together. And he says, well, let's deal with this. And I say, well, we'll just make a comment. Let's just write that down. We'll put it over here in the comment section. We'll put a note. We'll come back to that. Let's keep moving forward and see all of the areas we need to discuss. Or a marketing team. Let's create a marketing brochure. We're going to do it together. Instead of me doing it, then you, then me, then you, then me, then you. Or we're on the phone and we all have a piece of paper in front of us. Or we have a phone and we're changing our own, each of us is changing our own documents. Or how about if we're going to write a song or a movie? There's a Google commercial with Hall & Oates writing a song. So This is why we use Google. Some of the reasons we use Google Apps. Google is the best bet for the future. The people that run Google, Nolan Bushnell knows them very well, the guys, the founders, and he's sort of a hero because they grew up and they knew Atari and video games, and Nolan is very accessible. Nolan describes these guys as these are good guys. They want to change the world for the better. So they continue to do things that are free. Now, for our purposes, we've got 4 minutes. Everybody has been given a Gmail account. All students of Larson have a Gmail account. Every student in Larson should be in a circle, in one of my circles. So if you are not getting notifications of the events that we have at 10 o'clock, something's wrong. I need to get your email address. So if you're not getting email, or not emails, if you're not getting Google Plus messages from me in the morning, that's because I haven't added you to my circle, to my Santa Fe Springs circle or my Casa Grande circle. So, so we want to correct that problem. What we're going to do with Gmail starting tomorrow is start getting it configured for professional use. Your Gmail account that you have at the school, ltc.yourname. The day you started, is not something you want to put on resumes. You don't want to use an email like that on your resume. Why not, Jesus?
Because it's not a professional.
Yeah, it's goofy. Okay?
Too big.
People form opinions of you, and if they get an email from you that's ltc.jesus.121016, it's going to be, this guy's a kook. He's a nutcase. Google makes it easy to have your personal account hooked to your Gmail account. So all you have to do is log into your Gmail account. All of the emails that somebody sent you from your other account are in your inbox. And is that my battery?
It might have been off. Did it just die?
Maybe. I've got a plug here. Okay. So, and you can send from any email account. So we'll give you a second account after this. That's your professional account. When you go into business or you work at a business, you want to use your Gmail account for everything. But as far as the rest of the world is concerned, they're dealing with a particular account, your business account, ed@chowtutipublishing.com, except that really comes into my Google account, my Gmail account. When I send it, I'm in my Gmail account, but the person gets an email from my Chowtuti account. And what you'll see tomorrow is I think I have like 15 different email accounts attached to my Gmail account. I don't have to be looking at logging on to 15 different email things. You know, one of the problems with John at Casa Grande is he has how many different emails, Phyllis?
3.
3 different emails. I've been sending him emails to an email he gave me, and today he said, well, I never checked that email. Okay?
That's funny.
And that's the one I send it to. We've given him an account here for the school, but he doesn't use that because he says, well, I don't really get any emails from the school. And we've now ended up having to send emails to the email account he uses, but when he uses that account, he can't take advantage of the Google apps.
Because they're not synced.
Yeah. So the good news is when you learn the cloud, you have skills that nobody out there has. And John is a pretty savvy technical, not savvy technical, but he's a savvy guy. He is a licensed paralegal. He deals in documents and time sensitivity and stuff like that. He deals in that, but it's the old way. And, you know, in the beginning he thought, okay, just tell me once. I'm smart, I'm employed, I've got a good job working for a law firm. Just tell me once, I'll get it. It isn't that way. You have to learn how to do this stuff. And so we're starting this week with Google Apps. I'm not Google Apps, with Gmail. And again, to summarize, Gmail out of the box, you can use it and start doing stuff. However, it's like an iceberg. And most of the iceberg is where? It's underwater. Most of the ice, and not just some of the most, right? It's like almost all of it of an iceberg is underwater. So almost all of Gmail is under the covers, and we're going to look at that tomorrow. So the second thing, probably the last thing I want to make sure everybody understands and gets is this Gmail account is yours forever. When you graduate from the school, change your password, make it a secure password. People won't be able to get into it. It's just like what's going on with Apple right now in the government. Apple won't help the government get into the cell phone used by the terrorist people, the bad guys. Apple won't help them do it because they're afraid if they show them how to do it once, now everybody's at jeopardy. These things are all secure. If you have a good password and you don't share it with people, you don't write it down, you don't have to worry.
That's right.
There are no back doors. So you should keep your Gmail account forever, have all of your other accounts tie into it, and you can take advantage of Google Drive, Calendar, all of these other apps to make your life easier. And if you saw the trailer for today's event, Google just announced another thing today. Watch the trailer for today's event that says you can now keep your non-Google account. It's not quite clear to me exactly what that means, but you can now keep your non-Google account. It might be exactly what I'm talking about, but they're just marking it. So we're just at time, or we're maybe a little bit over time. Dennis, do you have oh, it's right at time. Do you have any questions?
No question.
Okay, so Dennis, I'm going to give you a call. When's a convenient time to call you? So we'll try to figure this out. Maybe you can type it. For everyone else, break time. Anytime?
This is a reoccurring.
Okay, I'll try calling you, Dennis, and then you can tell me when's a convenient time to chat. We can figure this out. Okay, for everyone else, thank you for being there. And we'll pick this up tomorrow. We're going to be working on in labs and getting our Gmail configured. Thanks. Bye, everyone.